Hello, and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk everything animation here, including DuckTales, which we'll be talking about today. I'm your host, Alex Bonilla, and today I'm joined by Michelle Anderer.
Hello.
And Steve Zeck.
Hi.
Today we are discussing the latest 4 episodes of DuckTales, returning from a hiatus. We have 4 to talk about from this week. We have Treasure of the Found Lamp, the Outlaw Scrooge McDuck, the 87-cent Solution, and the Golden Spear. If you want to catch up on our previous DuckTales discussion, as we have been covering this show throughout its run, you can find that at overlyanimated.com. You can also subscribe to our iTunes feed at overlyanimated.com/iTunes. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/overlyanimated. Wherever you listen to us, we appreciate any ratings or reviews you want to leave us. But yeah, we have 4 episodes to talk about today. There's a lot of ground to cover here since we're going in bomb format this time around. We got 4 this week, 5 next week.
Whoa.
So,
Wow.
well, let's go with the 4 that we have right now. We'll begin with general thoughts, and depending on if an episode stands out in our talking, we'll dive into that particular one maybe afterwards. But first, just general thoughts on the batch that we got this week. Michelle, how do you feel after going through all 4?
I feel like it's been so long since we've seen the show, but I mean, once the episode started, it was a pretty easy, immersive back into the show experience. I don't think there were any bad episodes in this batch of 4, but there definitely were a couple that stood out more than the other ones. All very entertaining. I always appreciate that this show is script driven instead of board driven, just because I haven't had on my reserve shows, most of them are board driven, and it's nice to have that really snappy dialogue and have that be the thing that stands out maybe the most. Gorgeous animation is always. I love all these characters except for maybe one of them, but we'll get into that later. I enjoyed this batch in general, so, and I was pleasantly surprised by one that I didn't think it was going to be that good, and then it had the most intense reveal at the end, and I was like, what is this?
Okay. Steve, your general thoughts on this batch?
I agree with you. They were very good episodes. I think each episode was better than the next. I was thinking about how to rank them, and honestly, I'm thinking it's pretty simple. The Treasure of Lost Lamp is number 4. Outlaw Scrooge McDuck is number 3. Number 2 is 87-cent Solution, and number 1 is clearly the Golden Spear. So it's just got better each day. And yes, it's great. Awesome reveal in that last episode. I totally saw that coming.
We are talking about the same reveals.
Yeah, but I'm also not. I also did not see the other thing coming too. So
yeah.
But and I do like how they subverted something in the Outlaw Scrooge McDuck. They subverted something which I thought was awesome, and an 87-cent Solution, man. I mean, Glomgold continues to just astound me of how hilariously ridiculous he is.
That was the reveal I was talking about.
Okay,
I did not
okay.
see that coming. It's pretty great.
Because that's a thing, that Time Stopper's a thing for the original series, so for me it's kind of not new.
Okay, but I was unaware that we had that ability in this universe, and so that was pretty cool. And I agree that I think that the second half of the week, where we have the 87-cent Solution and the Golden Spear, those are ones that I think are the better representations of what DuckTales does best in terms of ridiculous humor, and also especially with Golden Spear, like trying to dig into emotional stuff going on. Also, like Donald finally gets some love. I feel like we've been talking about Donald needing an episode, and like he finally got a little bit of focus, and so that was nice to finally get him back into the mix. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But yeah. So those episodes were fine. I honestly was a little bored by the other two, by the Treasure and the Outlaw one, but maybe it's because because of the fact that like those they kind of just feel like, let's visit our old characters, like what are they up to, sort of thing. Like the ones that we haven't seen in a while. It kind of
like
felt, it kind of felt like one-offy, kind of, just like checking in because we feel the need that we haven't used them in a while. But like, I'm not sure I got much of the joke out of it personally. But we'll talk about those as well. But yeah, so I think the ones that we probably should focus more on are the 87-cent solution and Golden Spear.
Yay.
Let's see here. Do we do funny first or story first? I guess let's do story first because so like Golden Spear is the story heavier episode. We check back in with Della, right? So the last time we had a podcast, it was just the Whatever Happened to Della Duck special, and that ended ambiguously. And now we're continuing that. She's building her ship, and Penumbra is continuously suspicious. But we end in a situation where Della is forced to leave, and then, well, there are like two reveals, right? First is the reveal that the General of the Moon now wants to plan an invasion of Earth.
Yeah, I called that he was... I knew it.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, it shouldn't be a shock to anybody. I mean, really, clearly evil
for sure.
Yeah. I guess that's true. We talked about this in the last episode, and also I think we kind of predicted that Penumbra, like despite her like toughness, but like would come around eventually, and that's where we get to at the end of this episode. She's like, "Wait, why would you do that?" And she feels kind of guilty for being a part of this,
and also she feels betrayed too because that general just definitely used her and just manipulated her too.
I don't understand that. Like, if he knew she was the one person who hated her, why wouldn't he let her in on his plan? That makes no sense.
Yeah, but she
would have gone along with it.
But she does love the other moon people, so she probably manipulating them is probably something she wouldn't be cool with, no matter what. From the beginning.
Maybe that's true.
Yeah, because one thing that does get hammered in here is like Della recognizes that Penumbra is just trying to protect her people, sort of thing, and that's why Della like lets Penumbra go with a lot of stuff, and that endears Penumbra to Della, the fact that she's like understands where she's coming from, sort of thing. And so I like that kind of like relationship like slowly developing over the episode.
And she reminds her of Donald.
Yeah, that was a cute detail.
Well, that's an interesting line that they insert here because the other reveal that
is not a reveal.
Well, not a reveal, but
an insane thing to plot.
A development is that Della lands on Earth. The ship is there. Donald finds the ship, and he accidentally activates it, and he is shot back into space. So,
well, I would say maybe the voice actor could do other stuff, but there's a different Donald in the Mickey Mouse Road Racers, so it can't be that. And he barely.
So you're very set on this just being him being ridden off.
Well, I'm sure
they can't do that to Donald.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure he's not off the show. He'll be back. I'm just saying it could be a while till we check in on him again.
Honestly,
no, I thought this was like the beginning of the new arc. Like, we found Della, but now we have to go save Donald. And the reason I'm not crazy about this is like I was hoping when Della did return that they'd have some like real time to like reestablish a new normal with her existing.
Well, the thing is,
but like now they're all going to be like obsessed with finding Donald, so they're not going to have a lot of time.
No, they're not. At least not for a month because they think he's away on a cruise. Remember, they sent him away on a cruise first, and he was on the bus stop waiting for the bus.
I thought he was coming back from the cruise. Has he not gone on the cruise yet?
No, I don't think so.
His feathers were back. I thought that was what happened because he came back from the relaxation.
They go back fast, just like that.
Oh. No, I think I'm over to Michelle's side. Maybe he was coming back.
And that's how they're gonna know. They're like, oh, well, he should be back soon. Like, they'll wait a couple days, and they'll be like, he should have been back by now. Also, the ship's gone, so he's probably in space now. Like they'll connect the dots.
I guess we'll find out next episode. But
Well, see, my thing also is that we insert the line of like Penumbra and the general talking. Is like she said you remind her of her brother, like so we already have like Penumbra being sort of aware of Donald, and now the ship might just go back to the moon, and now Donald will have to deal with the invasion stuff, and Penumbra and Donald will team up.
Bunch of hostile
He's gonna lose all of his feathers if that happens. For real.
And
it's a very high stress situation.
And who knows, maybe the family thinks, maybe Donald's still a little longer. Maybe he had such a good time, he decided to stay a little longer. Maybe he met a lady friend, and maybe just having some extra fun here, so it won't be too concerned.
You think Scrooge trusts Donald?
A lady friend on the moon?
No, I'm talking about on the cruise.
Oh, okay.
Is that how Scrooge is going to justify Donald being missing? It's like, oh, Donald made friends or something.
Donald made friends. He's so good at that.
Yeah, but so that's why I see this as just like kind of continuing to keep the moon as like part of our like side story until they eventually arrive at Earth for some kind of finale type situation.
Well,
but Donald will be our connection.
I do feel though probably when the climax of this whole moon invasion arc happens, probably Scrooge would have lost his bet and Glomgold probably in control, and the only way to save the world is to give Scrooge back his company so he can do what he gotta do, because Glomgold is not gonna protect us.
Yeah, I know we've talked about like these two being connected, although I still don't really believe that they're connected at all, the bet thing and the moon thing, but we shall see if they decide to intertwine them somehow. And also we have Della showing up at McDuck Manor door, and she's like, I'm home. And so I suppose next week we'll deal with nephews meeting their mom. Any predictions on how that'll go?
Very emotional.
Yeah. I do think probably Dewey and Louie would be very happy to see her. Huey, I'm not too sure. I do think he might just be still partially mixed emotion, be very happy to see her, but also might be very like angry with her for like her dumb decisions that caused this situation in the first place.
Is that one blue shirt?
The red shirt.
Red shirt. Oh, you think red shirt's gonna be mad?
Yeah, that's been a lot of speculations on the internet about that. But
why though? Because blue shirt's the one who's been the most kind of aggressively pushing to find out where she is.
He'd be, in that the case, that he'd be the most super excited and most forgiving of her. So.
Okay.
And I do hope I would like to see maybe a moment of Della and Webby maybe have a little bit of bonding, because as far as we know, Webby she had zip parental figures in her life besides Mrs. Beakley, who's like 2 generations ahead of her. So.
Plus, Webby might legit fangirl over seeing Della, because she's a part of the Duck family. So she's like, I've read all about you. You're such a mystery. I have so many questions.
Yeah, and she was involved in the search before the other nephews.
Yeah,
so
she and Blue Shirt, yeah.
They were doing their own thing behind people's backs. So Della, I'll just point this out that I feel like DuckTales uses cliffhangers a lot more often than the average show.
Well, I feel like they did this batch maybe more. I feel like Della was the only. Were there a lot of other cliffhangers besides Della?
Well, just I guess just Della in general is always the source of cliffhangers. Like you have the pilot episode where it just ends with them finding the Spear of Selene note, and then you have the end of season 1. It's like Della on the moon. It's like boys, and now we have this.
Well, that's why I was so honestly not a fan of Donald getting in the ship, because it was so quick. It was within 30 seconds of Della on the doorstep. He's back in space, and now there's another ridiculous cliffhanger. I feel like we need to not have a cliffhanger for a little bit for them to be exciting again. But now we have a new thing to worry about, and it just feels like whiplash.
Well, knowing Donald as I do, I think he'll be fine. He's been to a lot of wacky adventures. So.
But he got a prescribed stress hammock because he doesn't like adventures. This is absolutely what he doesn't need right now.
On the bright side, if we get a Donald solo arc, maybe that means more Donald episodes to dig into his personality. And I'm not opposed to that.
Well, I could
go to moon and no one's gonna be able to understand him. It's gonna be
Aw.
so sad.
And well, I could definitely I can't wait to see Donald and Penny kind of meet, since you've already drawn that connection, how the similarities Della has in her head, that they're similar. Let's see how they get along.
I guess that's the one interesting thing to look forward to about the Donald Moon plot.
Yeah.
I
And most of this episode deals with the moon, and this is the second appearance of General Lunaris and Penumbra. How do you guys feel about them making their returns?
Penumbra is petty, man. She gets so jelly.
How good of a roommate would she be, you think?
Not good at all.
Well, I don't know. I think it's more Della's part, because remember she said Della never did the dishes. She was more of a slob.
Oh, that's true. She didn't ever do the dishes.
I kind of wonder if that's a story of whether that happened in Donald and Della's childhood, that often Donald had to do the dishes all the time, and Della kind of got her way out of it.
Yeah, so that Della is not putting her weight around in the relationship, so so I don't think Penny is totally at fault here.
Yeah.
And just overall, like, I think that the episode does a good job of, obviously we predicted before, like, from the last episode that she'd come around, but I do think that the episode did a good job of, like, taking us through that process of, like, her, like, being more and more paranoid, but eventually getting to a place where she accepts Della for, like, what she's doing and like how she's acting, and then that realization coming just as the general does this whole twist, and that, like, kind of, like, climaxes it in a way. So I think that with Penumbra, they did a really good job for the limited time that we've known her so far.
I'm kind of really surprised that the arc for the season is going to be about aliens on the moon coming to invade Earth in the DuckTales show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'll suspend my full thoughts until we see how it plays out this season. But of all the directions this could have gone, I did not see this coming at all.
Well, do you think it's more or less absurd than last season being about the Magica the spell, like, deciding to, like, break out of her coin?
Well, Magica, I mean, but she was an established character in the canon of DuckTales already, right? Are these moon people canon, or are they a new thing?
I'm not sure if they're canon to the old show. I think they're canon to the video games. The classic 1989 video games. At least there's one level when Scrooge has to, fight on the moon. But I don't remember moon people. I remember the boss was a big giant rat. So.
Yeah, I mean, if the moon theme, which is, like, a famous DuckTales thing, so the moon must be important in DuckTales lore.
Or who knows, these might be from the Carl Barks comics. And there's so many Carl Barks stories, so don't even ask me to keep up to know all of them, so.
Yeah, so other stray things from this episode, we continue to hammer home Della being impulsed by needing to be a mother to her sons, but also, like, we kind of add in the thing of, like, hey, Earth is great, like, you guys would love it, sort of thing. So I feel like the show is trying to, like, at least flesh it out a little bit.
Multiple reasons to go to Earth.
I think though there's sort of like a subtext here, like Earth is supposed to represent a country and the moon's another country, and how, like, sometimes if you go visit another country, sometimes you oversell your country, and sometimes can make the people in that country just feel inferior. Like, I think that's what they're going for here with Penumbra's feelings.
Yeah, they kind of play with that too, like, also when Penumbra is, like, playing off of the aliens making them feel bad, and then one of them is like, oh, are our simple pleasures not enough for you, sort of thing. So, like, they're like sort of brushing against that, and, like, we have the whole thing of, like, her playing up the idea of, like, slap bracelets, guys, those are cool, yo-yos, dogs. So so we're trying to make Della at least care a little bit more about, like, actually being home versus just with family. So
I also think, though, you gotta look at Della's past. Being a mother is so important to her, because I don't know. It seems maybe she never really got to spend much time with her own mom. seems her parents died when she was very young. So,
I don't think there's been anything in the
that-
show that has implied that, but okay.
well, the Christmas episode, it seemed they were living
Oh.
with Scrooge.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true,
yeah. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I was too mean there. I'm sorry. But yeah, so but we do get there's like one moment I pointed out here where like she's like we'll finally be able to do things with together, like visit the pyramids of Tothrar, climb Mount Everest, and it's like things that the nephews have already done with Scrooge. So yeah, that was sad.
I kind of wonder what happens when it doesn't react with them. Are they going to tell her, or are they going to pretend they never did it and do it again?
I don't know. I mean, there are plenty of other adventure spots. I think you just find new ones.
Yeah. But it's more just like hammering home like all the time that she's missed, you know. It's just
Yeah, I don't want to hammer that home too much. I hope there's not a whole episode about them faking going to old places and then they have to have a talk about, yeah, you've been gone a long time, we did that already, and her being like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't really want that episode. I already feel bad enough for Della.
Later in this podcast, we will talk about another situation of faking being places.
Oh man.
But
Yeah.
and so most of that Della stuff is happening, and eventually she has to leave, and the general uses compassion to take the plans from her, and that moment is, I think, pretty well done, of like Della kind of being in a hurry and like not knowing what to do, and so, so like that all that was pretty great, and then like it sets up the general's like big monologue of like, we're gonna take over the earth. So, yeah, so moon stuff is great. And then the other side of things is Donald trying to relax, a very relatable thing in life.
Poor Donald.
Yeah.
And
it's it does remind me of like classic Donald Duck shorts of just Donald just trying to relax, and stuff always gets in the way. Either like his nephews or Chip and Dale or some groundhog. So
I'll say that opening is very cartoony, where it's just like him on a hammock, and then it like jumps up out of nowhere because like zombies just show up. Because
I love that it's like a cursed VHS tape, though. It's really great.
And a VHS tape too. Like, I don't know how old fashioned that is.
They said it's from the 90s. I'm like, oh yes, this ancient relic to summon zombies from 1995 or something.
Yeah. And like we get a moment of like Donald chainsawing through a zombie, which was
that was
kind of
cool. Yeah.
And then like the rest of the episode is also like Donald just struggling to find places to relax. Like he moves to the boat, and then Storkles shows up. Remember Storkles, you guys?
Oh, Storkles! Storkles is great.
Yeah.
Number one Donald fan.
Yeah, and he is also so supportive of the nephews becoming a god or whatever.
Yeah.
Eventually, like, and there's also a moment where he's like in a closet with demon goats. Gets caught in a portal, and that was that was something. But the big moment of Donald is that at the near the end, like they all realize that Donald is stressed, and and they decide to organize a cruise for him. And there's like a big family hug, and Donald is unsure about it, but they're like, we're all family now, so we can take care of each other, and that's what Donald needs to finally let himself rest.
You know what I noticed though? The hug
rest in space.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's now he's resting in
Donald.
space, but I just sort of like, once again, like DuckTales hits the family moments pretty nicely, and I think that's like another one where like it's nice that like they finally notice that Donald is going through some tough times internally, and like they like take it upon themselves to help him out finally.
You know what I noticed though? The hug, I know definitely that Webby was part of the group hug, so that was nice. It's Cincy and Don really haven't had any real moments, so it's even still.
Yeah, so Donald has expanded his family in recent times. Like, also, like, now Storkles was in that room, so is he part of the family now, in a way?
Well, as far as he's concerned, as far as he's concerned, I'm not sure how Donald's concerned. As far as Storkles is concerned, he's part of the family, so.
Yeah. And so, they get tied up at the end there with Donald and Della switching
I kind
arcs.
of wonder though,
So.
just the whole series is gonna wait. Like they're not all going to be in the same place, the two twins, until the series finale.
God, I hope not. I refuse to let that go on beyond this season, but
Yeah, please. Yeah.
so that was the main story episode. I think like the biggest funny episode is the 87-cent solution, but because we have Glomgold, the return of Glomgold, we have praised his appearances before. Michelle, what stands out to you of Glomgold in this episode? Because there is a lot.
Wow. I mean, I guess the thing that Glomgold has most to his advantage is that we really severely underestimated him up to this point. I mean, it's hilarious that he's like describing how in the twist that he has this master plan to mess with Scrooge, but it takes him like
a year,
12 months to stop shouting at a frozen child in like a pocket time dimension. So like clearly like it took him a really long time to put this plan together. But it's like great because like yeah, we see Scrooge like losing his mind and we have this plausible explanation of gold fever, and he keeps saying he like sees this guy and like look, there he is. Oh, he's not there anymore. Like Scrooge seems pretty crazy, and to realize that like Glomgold was legitimately like stopping time, like dressing into a devil suit, running around for like 5 seconds, messing with Scrooge. Like, that's amazing. Like, this was actually my favorite episode of the 4 just because of how crazy it is. But it was pretty fun, like, honestly. Like, Glomgold's no box man, but like I give him more credit now than I did before this episode.
I can't get over he's like literally wearing a devil suit in those flashbacks.
A devil suit.
He is so ridiculous, but I love the ridiculousness of him. It takes him a year to figure this out, but the thing I came for, the one theme I had at the end of the episode, the thing I'm thinking I repeated myself many times, 2 words: poor Olsen, poor Olsen. Like, oh man, what a life he lives.
That made me think of the part when like the what is the name of the like Scrooge headed horse thing?
Manny.
So like when Manny like gets out of the coffin and Glomgold's like, you turned into a horse. It's like moments like that honestly worked so well, and they were so silly. I loved it.
I'll say my favorite part, like the one that got me to crack up, was when Glomgold just like storms into the funerals, like the white suit, the top hat.
Oh my god!
We use a DJ Collins song, like the
that was a really good use of music. It was pretty on point.
Yeah, it was like making it rain, you know.
And normally he like tries to climb up to dance on his
my
body.
God,
This is so funny.
I thought he was gonna hump Scrooge or something.
Whoa, this is a family podcast, sir.
Figuratively, that is what he's doing by becoming the richest duck, so you know. Total power move.
And of course, maybe the best part for me is the fact that nobody let Donald in on this thing.
I know! I'm so sad. No wonder his feathers keep coming out.
And he had a funny line too. He said he was too young. He was too young. The oldest.
When he sees him, he's like losing his mind. He's like, "You're alive!" Like poor Donald. Oh my god.
He just had a tough week.
He's had a tough week.
Yeah, so Glomgold is great, man.
And you know what I want to eventually? I kind of want to feature. I want a bonding episode with Mrs. Beakley and Alson, because I think they're like the two inner, like they're the Scrooge and Glomgold teams. Like,
oh my god,
there's those two versions of each other, Beakley and Olsen. I think Olsen has become Glomgold's Beakley, sort of the right hand, his smart side of him.
Yeah, Alson's awesome. Like I don't really remember her being much of a character before this episode, but she's definitely a standout.
Yeah, this definitely feels like one that gives Alison a lot more focus than we've gotten in the past, and yeah, so like she fills the role well of like trying to keep Glomgold in check. So, like, she has to like drag Glomgold back to the pew, like kicking and screaming practically. So. She's doing the best she can.
You know what? She deserved vacation just as much as Donald. They should have gone together on that cruise or something.
Oh yeah.
Meanwhile, this is all impulsed initially because Scrooge noticed that he's been robbed of 87 cents. And so we have Scrooge I'm not going to say this is the first time because it's probably happened earlier and I'm just not remembering. But this feels like the first time that he's like actually obsessive over like a little bit of money, but I don't know. It's like the idea of Scrooge being obsessed with money is like a thing that I associated with his character for a long time, and yet I feel like the show has done a good job of not really leaning into that side of him. So like this felt like fresh in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm off on that.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing more episodes in the past that have already done this.
Well, it's definitely, I feel like him getting more used to like the nephews and not working alone's been a much bigger arc for the last season. So yeah, I agree. It's when you think of Scrooge, that's what comes to mind. But when you look at what the show's actually focused on, it's the money's like always in the background, but it's not necessarily the focus a lot of the time. So I feel like that's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we have this whole thing of him slowly losing his mind, and the nephews are thinking it's gold fever. And it's like most of the first half of this episode is kind of like doing this story of everyone trying to be for Scrooge's safety and Scrooge just totally ignoring them. Mm-hmm. And we get all the way at the end of the episode once Scrooge reveals that he was aware of this the whole time. It's like, I have my family to keep me grounded. I finally ended up listening to them, and that allowed us to think. So
yes, Glomgold's plan would have worked before the series when Scrooge was all alone. So I think that's the lesson here.
Yeah, he finally has people around him who care about his health. And so we get all those hijinks in the first half, leading up to the announcement that Scrooge is dead, which is kind of a shocker to have in the middle of the episode. I feel like, okay, well, this is a bit early, but like also like, whoa.
Well, Scrooge faking his death, that's happened before.
When did that happen before?
The original series. The
original
original series.
Count.
I'm just saying. Original series. Ma Beagle tricked him into thinking they're married in some sort of plot, and then in the end, he sort of faked the death so Ma Beagle would reveal that she was conning everybody. So.
Yeah, faking your own death seems like a very rich person thing to do because, like, you need the resources to, like, tell the press, to force the press into reporting this. And then,
funerals are expensive, too.
And then funerals are expensive.
It
Like, you need to make it look legit.
$2,000 at least, yeah.
Yes. So like it feels like a very privileged thing to do, to be able to pretend you're dead and then just like have a new life.
He had like the reward of $2 million for someone to recover his 87 cents that were stolen. Like you're gonna lose $2 million in the pursuit. Like you're willing to throw all this money on a funeral just to prove.
Wait, was Launchpad at the funeral? I don't think he was there. A lot of missing people there. There was, there was no, the two Caballeros, Jose and Panchita weren't there. Goldie wasn't there.
So you're saying it wasn't convincing enough because we didn't have all his friends throughout his life. Where was Goldie, right?
Yeah,
like, Goldie would have showed up just to steal his money
steal his wallet,
he's dead.
Yeah.
Steal the coins off his eyes, yeah.
But I think the Launchpad part wasn't there because they wanted Donald sort of play the foil, like the kind of the fool who fell for it. Because Launchpad would be one person you cannot tell. You have to pretend he's dead for Launchpad's sake because he'll give it all away because he's an idiot. So
yeah, that would not have been great.
And I have two of them. I have two of those characters there.
I'm letting you discuss Launchpad because this is actually the only episode that he's in of this batch, and he's got a little bit of moments earlier, like, he's the one who gets, like, shot down by Gizmo Duck in the middle of Scrooge's rage. But later, like, when they're trying to convince Scrooge, he's like, happy birthday! He's just got, like, a birthday card because he's totally unaware of what's going on.
Our favorite man-child.
Yeah, he doesn't get much, but, like, the little moments he still delivers. Other random notes. I want to point this out because in the middle, in the early parts where they're trying to figure out who could have stolen it, McDuck is like saying where everybody is. The Beagles were at a convict con convention.
Mhm.
Yeah, but they'll steal more than 87 cents. Come on, Scrooge.
And Mark Beeks was at something called Corncella, which, let me just say, why are cartoons obsessed with corn?
Corn's the
Like-
new it thing.
Like, this is also like a Star versus the Forces of Evil thing. This is
Yeah.
an OKKO thing. Like,
This goes all the way back to the Nickelodeon sketch show, all that. So, corn is crazy.
They did have corn in that show. It's true.
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many corn jokes, and I can never understand like what the It's easy to use in puns, I guess.
And
I don't
Scrooge really. And the last thing though, Magica is not going to steal 87 cents from him unless part of the 87 cents is his number one dime. You don't give a crap
Exactly.
about. So yeah, Scrooge is just very irrational.
Yeah, I guess that's also true. We're reminded that Magica is still out and about, so we haven't really used her yet in this season. Small possibility, I guess, since they're reminding us here that she's around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see. And anything else from this episode that you guys want to point out? Because this is just a very gag-heavy episode, so like there's a lot of jokes that we probably haven't touched on yet.
Glomgold is just ridiculous. You say he's probably Michelle. You compare him to Boxman. What about another character like? How about Hawkmoth too? Because the thing with babies.
I don't know anything about Hawkmoth. What does Hawkmoth do?
No, I'm just saying how many times he tried to akumatize a baby. He has this thing with babies, and his Glomgold here had this little fight with a baby. It's just like
yeah, just elaborate schemes. You know, those are always the hallmark of a good villain. That like they're just able to make things very complicated and yet still find a way to gloat over it. You know, so
you gotta find your joys in life. I feel like gloating can be healthy if it's what keeps you going every day, you know?
Oh, another
Glomgold has no time to focus on charity. He just wants to show up.
Gotta show how cool he is.
Sure. Oh man, I'm surprised though. Yes, it wasn't a kid show. If this was like a more adult show, he probably what he might do at the funeral. You might moon Scrooge. So,
I mean, we were very close. He was like,
they'd let him up on that casket. Who knows what he would have done in his, ultimate pinnacle achievement.
Yeah. But by the way, I guess he's too short, but like when he was getting up there, like did he not see that it looked kind of fake, the Scrooge?
No, because it points on the eyes and it's mostly covered. You can only see the head, so
he's not too smart.
Checked out. They did a whole funeral. Like I would think he'd assume like, well, if Scrooge loved his money, they wouldn't pay for a funeral unless it was like a real funeral, you know?
Yeah.
Scrooge probably buried in his money. He probably won't give any inheritances. He probably just bury himself with all his.
That would crush Green Shirt so much if there was no inheritance. He's counting on that money.
Yeah,
he's waiting.
He was very destroyed when he first heard that money was stolen. So. Also, like Donald gets the moment at the end with the funeral, but also earlier in the episode, he is also seen testing the security systems. So another poor Donald situation.
Yeah,
he's the one.
Let's just fall back to the opening of the original series. Like I said, this show does a lot of callbacks. In that version, is Scrooge who was electrocuted in an episode that was also part of the opening. So.
Yeah, but this time Scrooge is too rich, so he's sending his poor nephew to test the electrocutions instead. Yeah. So he's mean.
But yeah, look it up on Tumblr. They definitely have some there.
The DuckTales Tumblr community is. I'm not brave enough to dive into there.
That's what you have me for. I'll do the stuff.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Just briefly touching on the other two episodes here, we have Treasure of the Found Lamp, which is dealing with this dog person named Jin who's looking for a lamp. I think Louis is the one who accidentally sold it off. Yeah. So
actually, it was Duckworth that sold it off.
That's true. Yeah, Duckworth.
Technically, but Louis instigated the yard sale.
Yeah.
And so half the episode is Scrooge and Webby stalling, like making the Jinn go through fake adventures.
Yeah.
And then the other half is the nephews finding Duckworth and figuring out what happened. I'll just say I'm not a fan of when it's like obvious we're just stalling for time and like need to make up things and make this new person kind of like the fool, especially since he's like treated like a serious person. Like this is pretty emotional to him, and we're kind of treating it as a joke. I don't know. It felt kind of weird to me.
And I'm not the biggest fan of bringing back that fatso rich kid.
That was the most uncomfortable scene. He was like, I forgot he made his parents dress up like servants, but when he's like making them dance on cue and made his dad use his hands to drop the syrup on his pancakes, I was like, this is like really uncomfortable though. Like this whole place, this whole
I hope
child.
The series Scrooge is able to rescue his parents from his clutches.
But yeah, I think that's meant to be uncomfortable. So like,
and also,
they succeed, I guess.
And also, Gladstone or Paul Tompkins is back.
He is, but he doesn't do anything. He's just like sitting in a blimp. Like,
I still like him better than Doofus. So.
Sure, yeah, but like Doofus does more things. But yeah, I just feel like visiting like characters that we've seen before. Like, what are they up to? You know. Also, like with the Webby and Scrooge thing, it's like, hey, Celine is back, and we'll just like bring her into our hijinks.
I'm not clear here in Suckablues. Are they brother and sister?
Who?
Donald's like #1 fan.
So.
Who are you even talking about?
I'm talking about the person who forgot his name. The guy who's like Zeus's son, who's Donald's like #1 fan.
Oh, Storkules?
Storkules, yes.
Oh, Storkules and Celine.
I don't think they're related. I think they're both just like duck people. Are they ducks or are they different birds?
They're gods.
They're godly ducks.
Is Celine a duck? I feel like her beak's different.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah. I'm not sure though. It's definitely.
Yes.
Okay, maybe she's a duck, but her beak looks way different from all the other duck beaks. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. And it ends with the reveal that the lamp does not actually have a genie, even though it's called Lamp of the First Genie. And but there's like a brief moment where he's like telling his story about like his great grandma or something.
Crazy. This is the crazy part. Like I do not.
But it's so romantic, though.
Well, I know it's so weird. His ancestor, there was a genie apparently in the lamp, and it's just like, nah, just get to know you, bro. And then they get married, and then she frees him after they're married. What?
I think that's probably maybe the Disney remake of Atlanta. They should have done that. Should have combined Jasmine and Genie into one character, and let's do a more romantic story here.
Well, I think that it was I think Michelle's onto something. If they just switch the order of the story a little bit, like it would be very romantic.
If they freed him first, then they become friends, then they get married. Like, sure, marry your genie slave. That's not good.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to that part. I can't.
Why is that a part of it, the plot at all?
Who knows what order it happened, though, because you have their great grandson recalling. He's probably not sure the exact order of things, so.
Wow, casting doubt on the oral traditions of the dog person.
How is that? He wasn't alive then. How's he supposed to know unless he has Gyro's time tub?
Yeah, that seems to be his only main purpose, is to tell stories about the past. He keeps saying things like, you will be remembered. Yeah, that's kind of his motivation. So he's got to keep things as accurate as possible, and that includes the sordid history of his ancestry. But I just wanted to point out that also like that animation style was like a little different, like like making it feel like very old timey sort of thing. So the props to at least trying to make that a little bit more interesting. This after following up a revelation that this whole thing was for the purpose of just a lamp, even though there's emotional connection, but like everyone in show is disappointed, and I think people watching
Well,
might be disappointed too.
The more
Does Jin have like powers because he's like half genie or something?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know if she's very tough. He's very well trained. I think the lesson here, though, the lamp wasn't valuable to anybody else. It was worthless to everybody else, but to him, it means everything in the world. So one person's trash is another person's treasure.
one person's trash is another person's weird
Yeah.
biological history tree.
Yeah.
I think Dewey Blue Shirt like literally says that at some point, like, oh, one duck's trash is another duck's treasure.
Oh, he was the most except maybe Webby, he was the most excited in this episode to go on this adventure. So
yeah, he's doing the dramatic flair thing. That sure. We use the Ottoman Empire show that pops up in the background a couple of times, and the dog is offended by the Ottoman Empire because the real life Ottoman Empire apparently attacked his descendants, and they are very uncomfortable. They're made uncomfortable by this revelation. So, history jokes, you guys. So that happened, and then the outlaw Scrooge McDuck is a whole flashback episode to Scrooge and Goldie in the Old West.
Well, no, it wasn't. They sort of subverted it because really it was because from Gyro's perspective, it's not a flashback episode. It's happening right now. He went back in time. So I like how they subverted the whole flashback thing because it's sort of not a flashback if you think about it from Gyro's perspective.
So, okay, so you're just leaning on the fact that time travel messes everything up. Is that really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and personally, I like it better that way because I'm not the biggest fan of a whole like origin flashback stuff. I like stuff like let's do stuff like with the present, like what's going on with our characters now. I mean, except for the Legend of Korra Beginnings, that's a classic. But you know, I'm just glad they subverted it. But you know, I just thought it was clever the way they did that.
Sure. Although, like, this feels like a very flashbacky episode, and it's a story. The worst part is, like, it's being told to Louis because he's lazy, and, like, the show lampshades it by, like, Louis being at the beginning, oh, is this about how, like, grit and determination gets you places? And Scrooge is like, no, it's not just that, but it kinda is. So, I mean... And, like, I don't know, something about Goldie Scrooge interaction just, I wasn't able to get into it in this episode. Michelle, how do you feel about Goldie having her second episode here, or third, I don't know.
I mean, I honestly, like, I was so high on Goldie through the context we were first introduced her, because you don't know exactly what their relationship was in the past, but you get a sense of all this history and all these conflicting emotions, and, like, I loved that, but I didn't really feel, like, this kind of episode I feel like it's fine, but I don't really, like, need to see them in a Western, old-timey context. Because that's so removed from all the plot stuff that's currently happening. Like, if we didn't have the Della plot and, like, you know, there wasn't any bigger picture thing going on, I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. But, like, right now, it's like, no. Like, I want to wrap up the thing we started. I don't really have mental time to go to the West for an episode for no reason.
That's not the... It's maybe not a flashback episode, not fan of. I'm just not really big into Westerns, so... If it's a flashback to, like, any other time like the Old West, which is, like, such a cliche trope, I've seen it done so many times. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Yeah, like, the West, like, Western films have so many place markers, like going to jail, having a sheriff, having a coach ride, having a train, gold, pistols, cowboy boots. Like, you throw all of them there and it's like, that's the West, but, like, that's kind of all that happened. It was all just, like, these, like, gestures vaguely at the genre. Yeah.
But, like, I don't know, I don't think it was a fun hijink thing, but I think maybe just, like, the placement in this season felt a little weird, because, like, if I'd been in a different mood and there weren't, like, real stakes going on in the next couple episodes after this one, like, it would have felt a little different seeing them all together. But that's just me. Like, it wasn't a bad episode, but I honestly wasn't that high on it.
So the most interesting part for me is just the very ending, the idea that Goldie might mentor Louis.
That was great, but that was the very end of the episode.
Right. Like, they try to make this connect by connecting it to Louis' like, beginning a business thing. Although, I also feel like that's kind of, like, third in the list of stories that I care about.
Yeah, and Frank, the guy that runs the show, said this was going to be a Louis-centric season, and so far it doesn't really seem that way.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, we have Donald in space. How does Louis have time to be the focus?
Well, they say it's a focus like season 1 was Dewey focused. So.
Oh, so Red
Sure.
Shirt's gonna be season 3.
Yeah, or like
Webby.
or Webby, and save what Red Shirt for season 4. I don't know. Like, you know how Teen Titans they focus their season just weirdly too.
That's true.
But yeah, so I guess we're gonna get a Louis Goldie episode later. Sure.
I'd actually kind of love that. Like, I want to see how those two personalities pan out.
We've seen Louis from the beginning, like all the way down to that amusement park episode. He's sort of conning people. He's acting like Goldie. Remember how him and that waitress was sort of conning her and gave him free fruit punch.
Yeah.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, that's Louis' whole deal with business. Just trying to get money, and this will help him in his endeavors. Other characters that showed up here include Sheriff Marshall Cabrera, who is just the Old West version of Fenton. His name is Fenton, right?
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I wonder if he's.
His real name.
I wonder if he's related on his mother's side, which would make sense because his mother's a police officer.
Yeah. So there's your connection there to the real world, and also he becomes like a cardboard old timey version of Gizmo Duck later in the episode, and you have the introduction of John D. Rocker Duck, voiced by John Hodgman, a comedian person who's shown up on podcasts. But yeah, so I kind of enjoyed him, although like he's old fashioned rich person villain. So, but they do a good job of making him very unsympathetic. Complaining about his soup. So person that really sort of stole the show perhaps is his henchman Jeeves. He definitely had some good moments there.
You like Jeeves?
Well, mainly how like Goldie and Scrooge's interaction with him, how they sort of get him to churn. But that's more on those characters, not really Jeeves himself.
Yeah, because honestly, that felt a little bit fast to me. Like in one like brief like begging for mercy, he's just like, okay, I trust, I'm fine with you guys escaping. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like there's enough setup done for that, but. Yeah, I mean, his design is cool, and like he's definitely like going off of like Odd Job or like other James Bond type henchmen, where he's like quiet and large. He's got the little hat, so. Yeah, so we've got those 4 episodes. Lots of stuff happening in the second half of the week, and we'll see how that connects to next week. But before we go, any final thoughts before we begin signing off here? Michelle?
I'm really sad that Donald is going to space, but I mean, I guess maybe if we've established how much stress the adventures are causing him, maybe him going to space is gonna make him like super brave and not be stressed out by adventures. But I don't like that because like it's okay for Donald to have stressors. That's normal. I don't think he needs to change. I think he deserves a vacation. So I don't know why he's going to space, but I'm excited to see the kids reunite with Della. I'm excited for Scrooge to lose his mind over seeing Della again too. I don't know why space is plot point. I don't know what to do with that. And like the aliens, I don't know. But I'm excited just to see Dell again.
I'm interested to see Donald too. Like hopefully it won't be too long till we see him again. And who knows, maybe he can become the new leader of the Moon People. That'd be something interesting.
Usurp the guy, yeah. I believe he could do that.
He could, I could do that. I've seen him do it before. He's a very charming person when he wants to be. He can just open to situations just like that. But yeah, let's see how it's going to be when Della interacts with the regular characters. Perhaps like there'll each be like an episode, Adela bonding with certain insert character here episode, like including Webby. Hopefully she's part of it too. It's not just her sons. And by the way, I'm hoping it'll be a funny joke when she sees them all. And she says, "Wait, I thought I only had triplets. did I lay a fourth egg? And I don't remember."
No, I think she already recognizes who her sons are. I mean, she has that. She drew that picture of them that look like eggplants' heads. She admits that she's not good at drawing.
And also, by the way, didn't the show forget? Doesn't Webby have like a shadow inside her somewhere? I forgot about that. It seems the show has.
Well, I mean, we brought up magic on one of these episodes, so I guess Lena will show up again eventually. There's still a lot of some of these episodes dealt with visiting characters we haven't seen in a long time, and I think next week we'll probably have more of that.
I definitely want to see Mrs. Beakley and Olsen just go maybe on a cruise or something, just get away from it all.
Yeah. So, yeah, we have 5 episodes. I can't believe we.
Oh my god, it's gonna be a marathon, but we can do it.
Yeah, for 5 episodes to talk about next week. But so until that day comes, you can find out the info on this podcast at overlyanimated.com. You can check up on other things that we're covering in the meantime. You can join us on Discord if you want to chat with us about DuckTales or any other animated show we cover here at overlyanimated.com/Discord. You can support us at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to all of our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Kent, aka Brockman. Thanks as always to our Patreon executive producers, Ryan, Steve, Beatrice, Hugh, and Michael. Besides DuckTales, we are going to cover OKKO very soon. There's also new episodes of that going on. Star vs. the Forces of Evil, another Disney show, is beginning to wrap up, and we will definitely have coverage of the finale.
So we have Marcus Ladybug coming a new episode soon.
Well, we recently had a Miraculous Ladybug episode.
There's always
I'm not up to date on their schedule, but we definitely have one recently that you can check up on. And so we also released a Detective Pikachu podcast because we felt like it. So really we have a varied slate of coverage here at Overly Animated.
Boy, I've listened to a little bit of that. I have to finish it. It's so long.
Yeah, I heard 2 hours. You guys talked about Detective Pikachu.
Was it really 2 hours? I feel like it's a little shorter than that. But yeah. So listen for yourself. Listen for yourselves on our deep thoughts on all of those properties. But yeah, we will talk to you about DuckTales next week. We'll examine the fallout from all of these developments that we talked about today. So until then, thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.